I often get asked about our John Deere 333G skid loader. So for today's video, I figured I would do a skid loader video, talk about what I've had experiences with, the positives and negatives of each brand. And if you follow the channel, you'll notice that there's been quite a few skid loaders on here throughout the years, or compact track loaders. Same machine, different undercarriage system. For me personally, I got started way back when, and there won't be any video of it. We had a Mustang 345. This was made by Owatonna company, and it was a vertical lift machine. You can see the linkage on the cylinders. There was another link there, lifted vertical. Not a very big machine, was not very good for dirt moving, but it did work well for hog manure lifting and things like that, which is what we used it for on our farm to clean out the old open front buildings and stuff. Mustang built that same machine, 345, a 445, and then a 545, which this is the 545. You can see how much bigger and heavier it is, which is extremely rare machine. 445s are a little more prevalent. And then they built some other models like a 440 and a 320 and stuff, but they were a radial lift machine. Over the years, Mustang ended up going out of business. Owatonna was bought up by the AGCO Corporation, what we see today. Years and years later, Gale, when they were producing skid loaders, had the Mustang machine. They labeled the Mustang. This was a model 2109, which would be the same as a Gale 7810. What I found interesting in these machines was the way that lift linkage in the back. There's the crossbar cylinder, and there's a link up in the boom, but very similar to what the old 345 was. So somebody's gears returning off of a earlier model. Now, I don't think these are a bad machine. I don't think they're a bad machine at all. I've never owned one. I know they're quite large. They're like 3,800 pounds SAE operating lift capacity, but they are no longer in production. Later on, we went to I sold the 345 and ended up buying a Bobcat 975. And for today's video, I'm just using the computer here. You guys are looking at the computer screen. I'm just pulling up representative photos. The 975 was an absolute beast machine. I don't believe there is any video or early videos on YouTube here of our 975, but it was an absolute beast. It had a John Deere diesel engine in it, and it was a radial lift machine. 1,500.195 tires, and when you sat in the seat, if a 6-foot tall person walked by, you were basically a little bit above where he was at. So it was extremely large. It used two 6620 John Deere combine hydrostatic transmissions to drive each side, but it was not very well balanced due to the wheelbase. The only machine bigger than this was a Bobcat 980, and if you saw the forestry version, it was called a 1080. The 980 is an SA operating lift capacity of 4,000 pounds, and the machine weighed in at 14,000 pounds. And it was a little later model, and it was a Cummins powered, but absolute beast. Bar none, the biggest on-tire skid loader ever produced to date. Later on, Bobcat replaced these with I think it's a 943, then it became 953, 963s, 73s, and then they've obviously changed series now. We've always had 1 to 2 skid loaders around. As my excavation work really started to take off, I needed a skid loader I could grade with. So when I first saw a 95 XTK skid loader, that was one of the first big, high-powered, newer performance machines. I said, wow, those wheels are really spread out. But that was the secret to what really made it work, too. And another thing I enjoyed about the 95 XT that I had, I didn't own it a lot of years, but one of the things I really liked about it had 33, 15.5, 16 tires on it. And that was a wider tire. The 12 by 16.5s are the standards, which are narrower. And this particular representative photo is of 465, which was the later date 95s, XTs. Replaced them. The 465s, I think the one we had, it was a Series 3, which had cabin air conditioning, and I believe it was a Fiat engine by then, where the earlier ones were Cummins 239s. But with the 33-inch wide tires, you could really get into some tough ground. Has very good very good profile to it. Graded very well. The way that the boom and everything was shaped on these was extremely strong. They are a vertical lift machine due to this linkage back here, but the cylinder here laid in an angle, and when it pushed, it really pushed outwards, and it gave a lot of very low lift. There's a lot of machines like some of the New Hollands and stuff of the same time area, which would be like a LX 180, I believe. They would have a hydraulic biped. They would not roll over in their face. So the 95 XT case would actually just flip the rear end up. And in my opinion, that's the way it should be. It should be power performance. So if you're looking for something in that late 90s time era, a 95 XT is a really good machine to look at. There's some late 90s machines, and you really just can't go wrong for sheer power. Serviceability is not great on them, but again, sheer power, they're an absolute beast. Great machine. Cab is very, very narrow inside, but they have a lot of power. My 95 XT, we went to a John Deere 332. It was a CT 332. This one here is a Gins Rep photo. If you ever want to tell the difference between an early 332 and a late one, look at the back of the cab. Here's an early one, it's black. And here's a late one, this is what I had. It's yellow. So buy the yellow one if you're in the market for one. These were kind of the first really awesome track machine. These like followed your Model 280s and stuff that came out, which were great machines as well. For that time area, the skid loader technology is really starting to boom. CT 332 is a beast. My biggest complaint was the flip door. If you were to pull this on a trailer on a gravel road, especially our gravel roads, which are limestone around here, the amount of dust that would go in that cab would absolutely turn it white. So I would start taping around the door seals to get everything taped shut so I could transport it. This boom lift design, track power, a lot of this stayed in technology with John Deere throughout the series. John Deere had the, again, this is the largest model only, but they had the CT332, which became the 333D, which the D series was the first one with the new cabs and the newer body designs. A CT332 and then a 333D had the John Deere 5-cylinder engine, which have some notorious problems, including glow plug issues and injector issues. Bad engines. I would not have one. I know of 3 of them locally that have blown up, and they're about $25,000 to put an engine in them through John Deere, including my machine actually that I'd sold. I actually had some engine issues within the first 200 hours of use. Later on, they went to the E series. The E series replaced the D, so there's a 333E. And then when they went to these, they were very similar to a D, except they changed the cab a little bit, just a couple little small changes, but they went to a 4-cylinder Yanmar. Then they came out with the G series, the G series machines, which is the current ones, which is what I have right now. So there's a dealer, and then you can see the changes that were made on G. The boom's flatter design, changed all these bars, and again, they're still with the Yanmar engine. Different undercarriage, different boom design, better cab interior. So there you can see the difference between an E to a G. So the series was CT332, 333D, 333E, 333G. That would be your John Deere series, with obviously the G being the best out of all of them just because of the technology that's in it. My father had moved up to a 463 cat, or case, series 3, which I believe I mentioned already. I ended up going to a T870 Bobcat, which I'll get to in just a second. Now, I've never owned, here's a picture of a new, this is brand new, this is a TV450, which is the newest series. Prior to this, a TV380 was only as big as you could get. But now they've went to a 450, which is a bigger machine. But I did run a 270, and I absolutely do not like anything about the case machines. I think if you're a farm work, they'd be okay, but for the grading work, they're just not the way the controls mounted to the seat, the visibility, and just balance of the machine was not there, especially in comparison with like a John Deere. I actually had bought a brand new T870, and the price on T870s kept going up. I got done with the job, and I ended up selling the thing to a guy in England for more than I paid for it brand new. So I couldn't resist. Should have never done that. It was one of the best machines I'd ever had. Bobcat, the way that they do the linkage and on the boom and everything, and as this plays on autoplay here off their website, the way this linkage and everything went up was extremely high lift. It was very fast. Now they had one major design flaw though, is when this link right here lays flat to start to boom up, there is a point of about maybe 10 inches to 2 feet where that bar actually has to overcome itself to actually go over center to lift. That is a design flaw, in my opinion, where they maybe need to lower their point of center here and then change some geometry, because it has to overcome itself to actually lift. But as far as getting the high side boxes, just raw power of the machine, all day performance and cab comfort, great machine. Ironically, these use a Kubota 3.8 liter. The Kubota uses the 3.8 liter. The Takeuchi TLV2, which I'll get to in a minute, uses a 3.8 liter, and then Cat says 3.8 liter, but it's actually a Kubota engine. It says Cat 3800, but ironically it's a Kubota. So just about everybody besides like Case or John Deere are using the Kubota diesel engine, your top major brand. So obviously for that horsepower band, you're going to be right in neck and neck, because if you're using the same engine, your torque and your horsepower coming out, it's going to be very similar. The T870s started out, mine had what they had called a leaf suspension, and I think they show it here. They've changed that now to there it is. Yep. This is a roller or a twist arm, and this is a twist arm with a link. Similar to Caterpillar's torsion design, which I don't like, but they've done this, and they used to have leaf springs on each one of these. Had a leaf spring on the bottom rollers, but mine never had a problem. I've heard after they run a while, they get fatigued and they'll snap the leaf springs off. Service on the Bobcat was absolutely incredible. Pop the door open, you had your battery, your oil filters, everything was super easy to get to because it had a sideways engine. Good machine, good cab, really good instrumentation, comfortable. The air conditioning had a nice general layout, great visibility, open design around the back of the bucket where the quick attach went, the high lift, had a very high transport speed. The reason I bought the T870, there was nobody else in the industry that would go 12 mile an hour on a track machine that would lift, 12 feet high to the actual bottom hinge pins. When they say height to hinge pins, that's height from the ground to these hinge pins. Everybody else is around 10'8". The only person that's really, or the only company that's really come out with anything even close is the new John Deere now. Has the 333G has a much higher to hinge pin lift than previous. The only brand I have not run would be a ASV. I don't have much use for them. They also sell Cat and undercarriages. It's an ASV undercarriage. It's more designed for low ground pressure work, because the roller layouts and just general design, this is not really rated for high debris or demolition type work like we're using it for. This is a new Cat 299D. The XHP is the extra horsepower for the high flow, extremely high flow hydraulics. They're the only one in the industry that offers a hydraulic system like they do. Cat is also the only one that offers a fully sealed cab. When you lift this cab up, it's like a pod. There's a full floor to it and everything. It's literally a pod. Everybody else is just the ROPS goes down around the platform. I mean, Cat is literally the only one that when you lift that cab, it is a sealed and pressurized unit, and a unit itself. Very tight and sealed cab. Now, my biggest problem with Caterpillar, extremely poor visibility to the front end, and then the front ends have this torsion bar right here, and when you pick up a high load up here, you actually just bob in like you can't believe. This is a later model. If you ever see the ones with the straight arms, these are the later series. Mine had the arced boom because it was an earlier Series D. Serviceability is not very good on them, and track speed, lift speed, not a very good machine. Um, Cab is small inside, it's very, very small inside. And like I say, the front of that thing just about makes it impossible to grade with. There's some shims underneath the boom here, so it only goes down so far, because just about all brands have the same design. John Deere actually pushes down here, Cat pushes up here to tip the pen. There's these pads. But all skid loaders are meant, when you're actually cutting or pushing dirt, you're actually pushing against the body of the machine. You're not supposed to be pushing against your loader arms whatsoever. You're pushing against the body of the machine. And maybe besides a cat bucket, which I'm sure they're contracted out, you really have to adjust or shim these things accordingly to get that boom to lay flat and push against the machine. Then if you get a little bit of load in there, this torsion bar comes down, so then you have to elevate your bucket. It's just impossible to keep a grade with. Besides the specialty, which Cat offers a steel track system, which here I've pulled some up on Machinery Trader, just looking at it. I do like the Cat. I love the steel track systems. I think that would be great for some of the applications I've worked in. It does take out the low speed on the machine. I can see that some places there would be needs for the extra horsepower, but as far as grading or earth moving machines, I don't find them to be a very good machine. Again, if you're going to use a steel track machine, they'll be fine. But as far as what's out there on the market, to just say, hey, I want a rubber belted machine, I want to go in, I want to grade dirt, cut profiles with it, don't buy a Cat. I have not owned a Kubota, but I did demo a Kubota. Kubota has some really good features to them. They're, again, a vertical lift machine. And all I've really owned has been about the biggest models of each one, because that's, it's about as small as I dare use on what we're using it for. Kubota is a great machine. Roll up door, you can run it with the cab up or down. A lot of clearance, a lot of mud clearance underneath here. The John Deere machine I have now is what I feel is probably the best machine on the market, except the underclearance. There's low belly clearance, and the tracks absolutely build up in mud, something terrible. They really need to take a page out of Kubota's book there and get those tracks opened up. Uh, the tracks are terrible. They just, you get near mud with a John Deere and the tracks are so plugged up it isn't funny, especially around here. My biggest complaint with the Kubota is this is your, because it's a roll up door, you can't see it above instrumentation, so they put instrumentation down below. This is your instrumentation cluster here at the end of the pen. That actually hits the side of my knee, which I'm 6'4", but that hits the side of my knee, and then with the seat all the way back, it was fairly tight to the windshield. I did not have a lot of leg clearance, which for the John Deere, I'm much more relaxed profile. As far as serviceability and the rest of the Kubota machine, I think they're a great machine, and they're in my top 3 or 4 machines. I actually even like it better than I do the Takeuchi, which I've never owned one, but I had one on a demo. And after demoing it, this was the one I demoed. It was the biggest models, the TL12 V2. I didn't like it. It had a really wide boom, which was really good and strong. It was pretty fast lift cycle times. Again, it used the Kubota engine. The undercarriage was longer, front roller was bigger. The biggest thing I felt was wrong with the machine was it was extremely loud inside, and everything vibrated at high-speed transport. And the controls, when you sat in your chair, and you naturally, you sit in a chair, and you set your arm down, you probably set your arm about your thigh, in between your thigh and your kneecap, or your waist and your kneecap. On this thing, I actually had to sit and actually come, 80 inches away from my body to grab the controls. And I felt that the ergonomics were really poor. They did not float with the seat. Just very, very poor. It was actually like kneecap height. So imagine going 6 inches, sit in a chair, go 6 inches away from your kneecap, go to the height of your kneecap, then try to operate a joystick with accuracy. So I could slide the seat up, but then I would hit the windshield. The cab vibrated really loud. It was not quiet inside. And the real disappointment to me on the Takeuchi was when I went to cut grade. I was actually doing some topsoiling work so I could get some backfill dirt and doing some topsoiling work. I took my took the Takeuchi, and I started doing a bunch of stripping work with it. And the machine would only really cut really well about half a bucket full and beyond. The weight here had to, you get a half a bucket full to actually kind of pull the front end down. It'd actually slice through the ground. The John Deere is better balanced, and it would just, they cut like a knife, whereas this thing was front end light. So to get started, you had to take your tooth bucket, and it'd almost kind of want to rear the front of the machine up a little bit, and then you could get moving into the ground. I don't feel that the Takeuchi machines are that great. I mean, I don't think it's a bad machine in any means. I think it's a big machine. I think it's a powerful machine. I felt the door to be awkward as well. I just think ergonomic wise, balance wise, and possibly even a little bit of some visibility, that they're not as good as John Deere. And yes, I'm beginning to sound like a John Deere spokesman here, but I'm just telling you what I think is the best. So my personal top three are the Deere, the Bobcat, and the Kubota, with the lower rankings being the Cat and the Takeuchi, and that's on compact track loaders of the largest size, and that's what I've been around them. So for us personally, to recap this video here a little bit, we went from a 345 to a 975 Bobcat, then we had a 95 XT, we've had a 332 CT, a 333D, a T870, and we've had a 463 and a 333G and a 299D. Currently all I have is my 333G. I was going to replace it with a second machine, but now that the business is slow, I'm not going to do that. If you're in the market and looking for a good machine in the skid loader platforms, and you want to go enter beast mode for cheap, look for a 975 or 980 Bobcat or a 95 XT case. And if you are in the market for a compact track loader on the largest size of machines, and you need specialized with steel tracks or high flow hydraulics, and obviously you really only got the one option of Cat. But if you want the top three again, I like the Deere, the Bobcat, and the Kubota at the top three. They all have pros and cons. I do not like the Cat as well for the grading, or the Takeuchi. So I'm going to probably do more about each one of these in the future, and maybe even some on-site with dealers and stuff like that. But this will at least give you guys an overview, and you've listened to me yammer on enough here, so I think I'll go ahead and end the video today. I'm sure I'll get a lot of back and forth commentary on this about what you guys have seen, but this was my overview in our geographic or regional area of what we're using the machines for. And we've put a lot of hours in the seat on these things, so I kind of know what to look for. So that's just my opinion on them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe.